the topic of the mishtashkע החמה and the advantage of the higher mila, the higher quality, the advantage of the sun going down. Usually we speak about mishtashkע החמה as a negative, that the gullus of the Yevonim and Timu Kol Hashmanim is about the Tishka Chama, the sun being down, but on a deeper level, we spoke about that Dafka, specifically from the darkness, is where you have the highest light, and that's why even now, after the Yevonim were defeated, and even the year afterwards, when they established the Yom Tov, it was established Tishka Chama because of the great advantage of the greater light that comes out of the darkness. That was the conclusion of the mimer in the previous week's Dvar Malchus, and he's going to continue from that topic in this Dvar Malchus. Ner Chanukah, so he says, Ner Chanukah mitzvasa, the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah, and the Rebbe explains, what does it mean, mitzvasa? The mitzvah is to light it. So what does it mean, mitzvasa? So the Rebbe defines the terms. Mitzvasa means dina. What's its halacha, v'shiyura, and what is the shear of when we light it? Mishtashkע החמה, from the time the sun goes down, and as we're going to say, after the brackets, until ashetichla regel minashuk. So that's what it means, mitzvasa. It's shear. It's supposed to be lit at this time, and no later than that time. In the meantime, or right in the middle of quoting the Gemara, the Rebbe inserts an interesting contrast between the way this halacha is referred to in the Gemara versus the way the Rambam in the Sefer Halachas says this halacha. So he says in the second line, the brackets, and to note, Rambam, who the expression of the Rambam is Ein madlikin neres Chanukah kodim shetishkע החמה. We do not kindle the Chanukah lights before the sun goes down, ella im shkiasa, only once it goes down. So the contrast is as follows. In the Gemara first, it focuses on the positive. It says mitzvasa, its mitzvah is mishtashkע החמה. How you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to light once the sun goes down. And afterwards comes the explanation that as long as he doesn't make it earlier than it, and he doesn't make it later than the appropriate time of ashtichla regel nashuk. The Rambam, his point is to get to the point. He brings right away, goes to the conclusion. So therefore, since he's focusing on the conclusion, he immediately writes, we do not kindle before the sun goes down. Because the Rambam is a Sefer Halachas. It's not about discussion back and forth like the Gemara is. So the Rambam's focus is right away making sure that you understand when you're not supposed to light, and therefore when you're supposed to light. Okay, this is parenthetically inserted. And the Rebbe continues in the language of the Gemara in line 9, after the brackets. Ad, the mitzvah, meaning the shear of Ner Chanukah, is you could kindle it, should add until shetichla regel minashuk, till people are out of the marketplace. Va'ad kama, how long hu ashir the tichla regel minashuk is that measure of people leaving the marketplace? How do I determine this and figure this out? Ad the kalya rigla tarmadoi, until the feet of the tarmadoi, which is the last people that are in the marketplace, when they leave, then you know there's no one else going to be there, and there's no persumenisa, and therefore we cannot light the Chanukah licht. So the Rebbe goes on to sum up a little bit what we spoke about in the previous Maimer, the previous Dvar Malchus, with this Bar La'el. It was explained previously in the Maimer Lrni, ושמחי of Tavshin Lamed Hey, Barucha, at length, shnei pirushim be'inyan mishtashk'a החמה. There are two explanations in what the spiritual significance is of the sun going down. Both of these explanations were brought down in the words of the Rishonim, who the early ones are considered like Malachim, and these were explained. These two approaches in Mishtashk'a החמה was explained in many Mamorech Chassidus. Pirush Echad, one explanation is Shekashem Shemitishk'a החמה, just like when the sun goes down, Kipshuta, in the literal sense, when the physical sun goes down, this means that the sunlight is not visible anymore in the world. So too, it's in the analog, in the metaphor that we're bringing for the spiritual thing. Havaya, as we know, is likened to the sun. And the godliness, the son of Havaya, is not something that's seen, visibly revealed. The second explanation is this is actually as a not a negative, but as a positive. Specifically when the sun goes down. Like it says, the pasuk begins with the words "V'zarach Hashemesh," the sun shines. Ubo Hashemesh, the sun sets. So then to his place he yearns to go, and over there he shines. Specifically there, when he sets, that's when it shines in its true manner. Well, Kishain Hayidor, like the famous expression, to be able to find the most highest. Specifically when we come to the lowest level. Was explained previously. From what it's written in Tanya, top of page Vav, the higher worlds. From them, there's a descent. They are a descent from the light of Hashem's face, so therefore there was no purpose in their creation. And therefore, the inyan haliyah, and therefore the ascent that is caused by the creation of the world. Which world is, can we say, it gains from the creation? It's only, and specifically in the lowest one, that there's nothing lower than it. Over there comes in the ultimate perfection that Hashem desired to have a home down here below. So that was more or less the Rebbe was summing up in the last half of this last piece what we were talking about in the previous line. Now the Rebbe is going to elaborate on the second idea primarily, or both of them together, how they both fit together. We can add to the explanation this matter. These two explanations are not two separate explanations. Either the sun going down is a negative because the revelation of Havaya is not seen, or that is the most powerful revelation. These are two aspects and components that are found in every manner and every aspect that's in the level of the sun going down. The idea behind this is that the idea of the sun going down, according to the first explanation, the way it was in the days of Matisyo ben Yochanan Kohen Gadol, they defiled all the oils that were in the Beis Hamikdash. What does that mean in the simple sense? It was not visible in a revealed way, the light and the oil that was pure. So purity was concealed. Purity was hidden away. Purity was removed. But specifically this state and situation, this untoward situation of the sun going down, Paul hat gerufen, it influenced and affected, and it inspired as Ha'isoiris, Hamasiris Nefesh, Bekriyosei, Shal Matzio, B'yechne Kohen Gadol, Mila Vayalai. The inspiration of self-sacrifice and the call of Matzio, the son of Yechne Kohen Gadol, that to say who is for Hashem to gather to me. So the negative brought about a greater positive. Their self-sacrifice, their grouping together under that banner of Milaf Vayelai, influenced and affected the miracle of Hanukkah. Behind this means even in a state and situation where they defiled all the oils that were in the Beis Hamikdash. In every single yid remains the little cruse that's sealed with the seal of the Kohen Gadol. That we've had another Mamorim refers to Yichida of the soul. That no one can touch it. And that retains a state of purity. No one can make it impure. Even if there's only sufficient to light one night or one day, and the Rebbe explains an interesting explanation. What's the spiritual idea of something that can only light one day? That's the idea of the point of belief. It's only a nekuda. It's a one-day thing. It's not a whole developed system of philosophy and feeling and emotions. Nothing. Shalzan Hemar concerning the nekuda, the point of belief in Hashem. It says Bo Chavakuk. And Bidan Achas came Chavakuk the Navi and established everything on one. The whole Torah revolves around one thing. Remember, like it says, V'tzadik, the righteous person. In other words, he does all the Torah mitzvahs. He lives by his emunah. So emunah is a point, but it's a point upon which everything revolves around. So that shemen, that oil, that essential seal, the cruse of oil that's in the essence of every yid, is only enough to light one day to have the point of emunah. Hine, nasa b'neis, that had a miracle occur to it. And 8 days they kindled from that one single point. This corresponds to the second explanation. The inyan de zareach hu shamhu dafke. The idea that it, the she'in de zareach hu sham. The idea that it shines over there, it's specifically after the sun goes down, Mishtishka Chamu, when the sun goes down. And this goes back to the question that he asks in the previous mimer. Why, after the miracle happened and after the Yevonim were defeated, do we light it after the sundown? When the Yevonim were in power, so we understood the idea of the sundown. Why do we light it now when the Yevonim are defeated after sundown? So he says in line 29, this is the inner reason that they established the time of the Hanukkah candle from when the sun goes down. And to such a degree that we don't even kindle before the sun goes down, like we mentioned previously from the words of the Rambam. Because the entire miracle of Hanukkah came about because the negative state of the Mishtashk'a Chama, of the sun going down, in the spiritual sense, that it was the negative of the sun going down. It says on top of page Zayin, Ubahagdim, by prefacing, the L'churi Yesh Le'er Pashtus, seemingly this whole question about why do we light when the sun goes down is not really a question. That the reason why we kindle the Hanukkah candles when the sun goes down, there's an expression in Chazal that says a candle in the noonday sun, what benefit is it? In other words, we want the Hanukkah candles to be visible. because we want the Hanukkah candles to be visible. If you're going to light it in the middle of the day, in the middle of the day, it's the world is flooded with light, so the candlelight is not significant. You barely see anything of it. You definitely don't see its light expanding and so on. So the Rebbe says, so that could be the simple reason why we light once the sun goes down. But the Rebbe says, if that was the reason, so what's going on with Shabbos candles and the neighbors in the Beis Hamikdash? The Rebbe says, but in truth, you can't say the reason is because you want the Hanukkah candles to be visible. The proof is from the candles lit in the Beis Hamikdash, and the candles of Shabbos Shizman Dafka Chama at the time is specifically before the sun goes down. So what's taka the reason if the sun makes the candle of no significance? So why do we light those others before sundown? So he says that Amarash has a very simple difference. Even though candle during the noonday sun, what benefit is it? That is, tira means, like I was mentioning before, the words noon. In middle of the day, when the sun is at its fullest, that's when we have the idea of the light of the candle being insignificant. Shekol Targum Shel Tzarayim Tira. We know every time when we translate Tzarayim in Aramaic, it's used the word Tira. So therefore, when it says, it doesn't say Shraga Bayoim Mayahan. It doesn't say candle during the daytime. It has no benefit. It says Tira specifically in the noonday sun. But Toikef Hashemesh, when it is the sun in its full strength, that's when the candles are insignificant. Mash'enkim b'plaga mincha, as opposed to the period of plaga mincha, v'hainu shebizman ha'korav lo, the time of the day what's closer to the night, she'ozein toikef hashemesh, then the sun is not in its full force. Azai hane afilu shraga, therefore even a candle helps. K'fi sheroim b'poil, like we see in actuality how that works and how that helps. So therefore, you cannot tell me the answer is because of it has no benefit, because A, we see it has a benefit, and B, that's the reason why in the Beis Hamikdash and Shabbos we do light it before Shkia. Therefore, the Chiv, he says in line 13, Alpha became ein madlik in there is Hanukkah still, and all despite the fact that there would be a benefit, there would be a usage of lighting candles. Even before Shkia, from Plaga Mincha, we still and all do not kindle Neres Chanukah before Shkia. So it's understood that the inner reason behind it is because it's impossible to affect the matter that Ner Chanukah has to affect. What it's supposed to accomplish will not be accomplished. Only if it's in the state of the sun going down, then it can have that most powerful light, as we are about to explain. Like the second explanation, only when the sun goes down, so then to its place it yearns and it shines over there. And similar to what we find concerning the oil, the miracle of Chanukah involved the oil. That the oil does not give forth its the olive does not give forth its oil. Elim can only through pressing it. Pressing indicates darkness and negativity. It's also a muscle for difficulties and so on. And only then it gives forth its oil. The same thing, only in darkness do you have the most powerful light. The truth is, even in going back to the physical thing, true, you do have benefit from light from Plaga Mincha, but when do you see the true power of the light? The true power of the light is after sundown. Eisvav. I'm sorry, line 23. And to explain this matter in the avoid of every year. They live to be able to affect the idea of a miracle. Dugmas Nes Chanukah is similar to the miracle of Chanukah. The miracle of Chanukah, like every miracle, is about elevating nature. Chassidus always brings down that the word nes for miracle in Lashon Kodesh means raising something up. Like raising a flag on the mountains, meaning that something that's raised up high. So how does one attain, how does one bring about a miracle? There has to be a concept of work and toil and lots of effort. Like the Alter Rebbe explains concerning the difference between someone that is an Oived Elokim, someone that is in present tense, working for Hashem, not just serving Hashem, but he's working from the word Avoida. Avoida is from the word working and tanning hides. And that is showing a lot of effort. This happens through effort and toil. The Chazal say that only when you toil, that is when you are successful, top of page Ches. As opposed to if you don't toil, don't think that there is any success, there is any mitzvah, as he says. That's the state and of the sun going down, the way it's in the service of a person. He begins his service in the manner of specifically of toil. For example, in Torah study, that the Torah study is done in a way of toil and effort. Like it says, it says Hashem will do for those that are mechake to him. Now, mechake simply means await, but the Zohar says something deeper. Leman de dochakin b'milei de chochmasa, to those that press themselves, exert themselves in matters of wisdom, in Torah, in other words. Then, when the person exerts effort and toil, so then he has the idea of the Chazal promise us that if someone puts in effort, you put in effort, then you will find. And it's not just concerning Torah study, but in a similar vein, also concerning mitzvahs. The idea of a mitzvah is in such a manner, he's not doing the mitzvah because it has certain characteristics and benefits, whether spiritual benefits, physical benefits, and so on, some characteristic, something that will help him spiritually, whatever it is, that's not the reason he's doing the mitzvah. He's not doing the mitzvah because it has a certain meaning and intention and reason behind it. The whole reason that he does the mitzvahs is because he sanctified us in his mitzvahs and he commanded us. Like we say in the bracha that we make on the mitzvahs, that's the main point of the mitzvah. That is the main intention a person has to have when he's doing a mitzvah. He has to have this intention. He's doing it because Hashem commanded him. That's the main component. Everything else is icing. Then the mitzvah is done completely. From the Mahadrim, the way of being the best of the best, like we derive from the Neiros Chanukah of doing things Mahadrim and Mahadrim. This means this means that even if after the fact he did it out of habit, not of rote, not because Hashem commanded him, he does fulfill its obligation, even if he does it not for the sake of the mitzvah. How much more so if he does it for the reward that's connected with this mitzvah. Still in all, he's performed the mitzvah completely. And how much more so in the beautifying fashion, from the mahadrim. But how much more so in the way of doing it, from beautifying, it's only when he fulfills it, because that is the command of the creation, and that is considered toiling, as he'll soon explain, because he's doing it just for Hashem's will's sake.